5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online, the big1050.com. Sam Webb, Mr. Ira Weintraub on the other side, and it is MGoBlog Roundtable time on the heels of what is, we had news days, and this is one of the more maybe the most startling one, the firing of Chiron Moore yesterday for cause a relationship with a subordinate, and was terminated immediately upon discovery or presentation of credible evidence to that effect. Joining me, as they do every single Thursday, to discuss the news relevant to Michigan, none more relevant than this, the MGoBlog Roundtable crew. Starting off first with Brian Cook. Brian, good morning. How are you?
I am not well.
Join the club. Seth Fisher, how are you?
Also not well.
And, of course, the venerable Craig Ross. How are you, my friend?
I'm okay. I'm in Hawaii.
That's because you're in Hawaii.
The weather's warm. It's okay.
Yeah, the sun really does come out tomorrow in Hawaii, Craig.
Yeah.
Not coming out around here.
Yeah.
So, look, I've been speaking for multiple platforms and speaking for hours about this morning. Want to give you guys your opportunity to chime in before I speak again. So let's just start off one by one with you, Brian Cook, your reaction.
Obviously, profoundly disappointing actions by a guy who, should never have been in the position. And the thing that kind of sticks out to me is that people have gone over his Instagram follows, and he's following like 300 OnlyFans models. And like that didn't happen when he was hired as the head coach of the University of Michigan. And it's just another piece of evidence that like there's not really anyone steering the ship here. Like, how many embarrassing incidents has this department gone through in the past 2-3 years? Way too many.
Seth Fisher.
That's where I'm at too. First of all, there's a lot of people going around talking about where their sympathy should lie, and wife and kids I care about. The kids at Michigan I care about. I don't really have sympathy for Chiron Moore. I don't have sympathy for people who might have known about this, and we're going to find out what people knew and what they didn't. But it's a profoundly disappointing that this kind of thing can happen, and that it's not the first time that we've had inappropriate behavior going on at Michigan that apparently a lot of people know about. And then I guess this one was a little easier to hide, but it's still, what is going on here? What is going on here that we don't have some sort of, control mechanism to catch this kind of thing before, on December 10th, all of a sudden we're finding out that there's got to be a better way to do running this athletic department. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, where I'm at, I've done divorce cases for 50 years, and I've been involved with representing people, including some coaches. I've been involved mostly with arbitrating and mediating divorce cases. And this is, I'm sad to say, I guess, business as usual in the world of family law. And what has happened here is horrible for Chiron's kids, horrible for his wife, horrible for his family, and horrible for all the families involved in the Michigan Athletic Department, particularly the football building. These people may lose their jobs. I don't know, because my understanding is you bring a new coach in, unless it's Biff, everyone else is out the door, regardless of how they've behaved, how they've performed, or anything else, and so this impacts all of those families too. And so in that context, it's, understandable and reasonable to be really mad at Chiron. And I am too. But I also think it's, this is not anything that I haven't seen every day for the last 50 years. So, I have some empathy for him. I have some empathy for, whatever he's enduring. But this is terrible for Michigan football. It's terrible for Michigan athletics. And I mean, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that that there's in the regions today. That's, I think, been posted maybe by John, maybe by others. I don't know what's going on there, but that's not great for Michigan or the athletic department either.
So let me address a couple of things that I see from people in the chat. Just rewind the tape. I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to roll first, because I see a lot of things being said here. The chronology of events. These rumors were not new. The rumors began months ago. They resurfaced after the Ohio State game. When they resurfaced, the feeling, the sentiment was that these are resurfacing because as a result of the discontent over that, not that there was suddenly some new reason, some new cause for this. Why was that the feeling? Why was that the sentiment? Because when the rumors first emerged, they were looked into. It wasn't just the denials from the principal parties. They were looked into. This was explored. Now, what does that entail beyond the denials of the people who were alleged to have been in a relationship? I don't know the details of that. I can only tell you that it went to, and as I reported last week to answer someone's question, I said no credible evidence of a relationship was found. Doesn't mean that it's not the same thing as saying that they didn't have one, because that would just be relying on their word. That's saying that Michigan looked into it and they couldn't find anything to support that they were actually in a relationship. People suspected, people thought they were, but there was no evidence that said that they were. So,
I mean, at this point, I just don't have faith in Ward Manuel because of what he did with Mel Pearson. Like, I just don't trust him. I don't trust him in this regard at all. Like, he sat on that report that was a clear firing offense for Mel Pearson and didn't want to fire him for months and months and months. Mel Pearson was out of contract. And when it was finally clear to him that he could no longer have that man as his hockey coach, he was forced into going with an interim, and he lucked out because Brandon Navarro was that dude. But that process was terrible. And now we have another internal investigation that results in this. And given what happened earlier, I just have absolutely no faith that this was handled appropriately. And I know that you were lied to by various people, and that's not fair to you. And I just can't.
The only one that
how many more DUIs does this department need to have?
The only one that I can say lied to me was Chiron. But I didn't rely on just what Chiron said, which is why I said, hey, they looked into it. They didn't find anything credible, and so he is not slated to be fired. That was indeed the case. He was not slated to be fired. Now, your lack of faith in Ward aside, that is the fact. Those are the facts. Now, folks saying that, hey, that's evidence of a cover-up, that should strain the credulity for even the staunchest conspiracy theorist. There's just no reason to think that you would sacrifice your standing to cover up a relationship that so many people suspected was there. I just don't have any faith in that anymore. Like, Shemi Schembechler should never have happened, right? If there was someone in charge of this department, that would never have happened. So many DUIs. They're not vetting anybody. And like Chiron Moore had disqualifying things on his public social media before he was hired as the head coach, and nobody bothered to check. And like, I was supportive of hiring Chiron Moore, but fundamentally, it's not my job to do a background check on these guys. It's Ward Manuel's job. And he simply refuses to do it over and over again. And so those disqualifying things were what? I guess I didn't see those.
His Instagram is 300 follows of OnlyFans models. That's disqualifying. That's Mike Shula. You can't do that. You can't lead men and have that on your public Instagram. And that's not something you need a private investigator to figure out. You just need to do a little bit of due diligence. This was predictable if you were paying attention, and Ward Manuel was not.
Well, okay. So listen, I didn't know about the OnlyFans Instagram model. I'm only talking about this.
That's fine. But
this
what I'm saying is that there's a pattern in this department where no one is checking to see if these people are appropriate to be employed by the University of Michigan. And fundamentally, that goes back to Ward Manuel. And fundamentally, Ward Manuel has done nothing in 11 years except bumble a couple of times. Great. But I am furious about this. And every Michigan fan should be furious about this. And I can't see how you continue employing Ward Manuel.
So, as I said, with to continue answering the question, there was not a cover-up, nor was there a this taking of information and just parroting it from Chiron or Ward. There was definitely due diligence in looking at what Chiron said, looking at the fact that they did an investigation. You can question the credibility of the investigation. That's totally aside. Those things were what led to last week's report. What led to yesterday's firing was the presentation of new information. That's what emerged. According to John U. Bacon, it was the presentation from the staffer that a relationship
Okay, Sam, but we have an investigation, or looked into it, that took place, I guess, in November or over the. I don't know the timeline right now, but you're saying there was an investigation of some sort that you were basing your report on, right? And this investigation missed critical facts. And the question we have is, how much were they interested in finding these critical facts? This is not a new story.
Yeah, critical facts that were revealed
yesterday, and then they fired him, right? But it's not. But the question is, how interested were they in finding those critical facts before whatever happened yesterday happened? How and what Brian is saying here is we can't trust this administration based off of their track record over 11 years to conduct an investigation like that.
Yeah. I don't share the same.
I think it goes beyond just the athletic director. You have Schlissel, you have Santa Ono. Like, the leadership of this university has been awful for years. And frankly, I think Ward's implicated in that. I think they need to clean house. Like, I'm done with this. I'm done with a new scandal every 4 minutes.
It's the Regents who hired Ono. It's the Regents who hired Schlissel. It wasn't Ward who hired those people.
Yes, I know that. And I don't know what to do, because most of those Regents are still around.
And look,
I have faith in some of them, but like their choices, they seem to find spineless people. And I appreciate Acker and Bernstein speaking up about the deal, the private equity deal.
Yeah.
And I think that shows real leadership. And I think that is a hopeful sign, because Michigan torpedoed this terrible deal that Tony Petitti, another failed leader, was trying to impose on Michigan, and they stood up for it. And so I hope that we're going to have a serious self-evaluation of what's going on at this university.
Listen, I don't share the same. I just don't share the same questions about. Clearly, there's a belief here that Ward is not doing a good job. I don't share the same questions of him morally or ethically, that he wouldn't be interested in getting to the bottom of whether or not a relationship took place. I have no question, at least to me, that he would be that he was absolutely interested in knowing whether or not a relationship took place. A cover-up did take place, a cover-up by the principal parties involved. If they were interested in really keeping this from their superiors, They would take great pains to do so. I think they did here. Now, what could they have done beyond what they did to uncover it? I don't know. I don't know. What ultimately happened to reveal it was she came forward. So, I mean, maybe there was something else they could have found. Maybe something else they could have uncovered. But what happened to bring it to light was she did something that she didn't do before. And that's what she confirmed, according to John U. Baker.
But this is not a news story. And I'm not just saying, like, you know, Chiron and his relationship being not new. I'm saying the story of a powerful man having a illicit sexual relationship with somebody under him. It's not a new story for this university, right? How many times have we uncovered this before? What makes you think that our process was going to uncover this without someone what gives you that confidence? Because right now I see these stories coming out, and every single time it's like, okay, when we absolutely have to, then we move. But until we do, it's like, oh, we looked into this and we found nothing.
Well, on the flip side, you've got Chris Partridge being fired, you know, with a sort of shoddy due process.
That was based off of an NCAA report. I'm not getting into that.
Oh,
I'm saying that it's not the first time, and you pointed this out too.
A set that's inconvenient, so you don't want to get into it. I'm a believer in due process, and that's why I never had a problem with, or at least from what I saw, with the Mel stuff, because you didn't
have a problem with the fact that the due process had been completed, and Mel Pearson was not fired for months. For months.
It was incompetent.
The report was released to the public, and that was the thing that caused Ward to actually take action.
Well, I don't know what.
And that had been on his desk for months.
Yeah, but so what if it's on his desk? I mean, here's the problem.
What are you talking about? It's his job to make it. It's his job to make a decision, and he just waffled until he was presented with no choice.
Was not the coach at that time. He got an incompetent report. He had the obligation.
He got an incompetent report. What does that mean?
It was written with a Crayola. I read that thing. I read that thing carefully. It created
the Wilmer Hale report.
There were 75 different firing offenses in that report.
Well, I don't know if there were 75 offenses, but I think Ward had the opportunity or had the responsibility to investigate things in that report, and it may have taken time. In the end, Ward was gone, and he made a good hire. Mel was gone, and he made a good hire. You didn't like it because it was too slow.
He was forced into hiring Naruto as an interim because he waffled so long, and he got lucky. That's what happened.
I don't know if he got lucky or he was smart, but he made a good hire. And so I'm not telling you that it isn't legitimate to think that there's problems in the athletic department because of stuff that's gone on. Shemi for sure. There's
just no oversight.
And that may be accurate. And it's why 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago on this show, I said the thing that's bothered me the most about Ward and the athletic department is a complete lack of transparency. Things happen, nobody knows. And that was not what was in Ward's or the athletic department's best interest. And Mel would be at the top of that list. Either he just sat on his desk, as you said, or something else was going on that he didn't say. And from my point of view, when I read that report, I thought more work needs to be done here, because this report is not A, coherent, B, even English at times. And I mean,
I read the report too, and I just disagree with that characterization.
All right, so we've disagreed about this forever.
But there's like so much in there that is just simply unacceptable.
And there's so much in there that warranted investigation, and that may have been.
That is the investigation. That's right. The investigation.
But the investigation needed investigation because it left so many holes.
All right. Well, that's just not the way it works.
Well,
like once you have the report, that's the report, and then you have to make a decision based on the report.
It's the way it works in my world, the legal world, and so I'm not telling you you're not right. I don't know. I don't know. And apparently the regents are going to talk to Ward today, and I suspect if they're paying attention, they're going to have their own questions.
I mean, when's the next one? It's not going to be very far in the future.
Maybe today, for all I know.
The next one's just coming around the bend, because that's what happens in this athletic department now.
Yeah.
Is that every 3 weeks there's something?
Yeah.
When has this athletic department? When has this athletic department, in the last 11 years, when has this athletic department found some credible evidence, went and researched it, took appropriate action in a reasonable amount of time? Do we have any examples of this?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith, and I can't see. I just can't see a situation in the future where this isn't going to keep happening, because it's been happening for years. Like,
that's true.
Like, Xavier Simpson was in a car registered to a member of Ward Manuel's family.
True.
I don't think that's good judgment. Maybe we should talk about coaching candidates, because we're all real fired up right now.
I mean, you got to talk about who will be handling that process for sure. And so, yeah, we can get into coaching candidates on the other side. Who would be ideal? Who would be Dusty-like? How do you handle this in a Dusty-like fashion? I think there are many ways in which this process has to mirror that one. If you're going to wind up with a similar kind of candidate, similar caliber candidate, in my opinion. So we will get into that. Now is a good time to get to a break. So let's take it now.
You don't need a break, Sam. Remember, you don't need a break.
Oh yeah, because I got to get out at 55, right? Yeah. Get out at 55. So with that, let's go ahead and talk candidates. I have been talking about who would be my top one, but I don't want to. I've been spouting off about it all morning and on several shows, so I'll let you guys go first. Let's start with you, Brian. So go ahead.
Obviously, if Kalen DeBoer is going to listen, you're going to talk to Kalen DeBoer. Now, I still think that's going to be a long shot, because, what if he beats Oklahoma? I just don't see that being a likely outcome. But, if he's listening, we're talking. Now, aside from DeBoer, I think there's like a tier of 3 candidates who I think are acceptable options. One is Jesse Minter. Obviously, he has a show cause. It's 1 year. It's supposed to expire in April. I think Michigan can work around that. Problem with Minter is that he might be in line for an NFL head job. And then this is a name that nobody's really talking about so far, but Jeff Brom is by far the most qualified guy who has not recently signed an extension and is at a place that is not a terminal college job. Now, that is his alma mater, Louisville, but he was very good at Western Kentucky. He was very good at Purdue. He's very good at Louisville. He's coming off 10-4, 9-4, and 9-4 at Louisville. He had Purdue playing over its head for basically his entire tenure. So he's been a head coach in college for over a decade now. He's had success at places where it's tough to have success at, and he's been climbing the ladder. Seems like a good dude. Brom is like the sitting head coach who I think is the best option if you can't get DeBoer. And then honestly, Jason Eck, he was very good at Idaho, and Idaho was 4-7 before he arrived. They went to the playoffs every year he was at Idaho, which is 3 years. They're 4-8 after he left. He goes to New Mexico. He beats UCLA. He beats San Diego State. They finished 9-3. That's New Mexico's best finish in a million years. And he's a former Wisconsin offensive lineman, has been an offensive line coach in college for over a decade, usually at FBS schools. A guy who seems like a cultural fit, 48. So if he's a hit, you got him around for a long time. He's only been head coach for 4 years, and he's only been at New Mexico for 1 year. So there's questions there. But you start going down the list, and now that Michigan's again in the hiring cycle, well after most people have already hired a head coach, you're looking at, Jed Fish, Brent Key, Tony Elliott, and Clark Lee, I don't like because he's just Diego Pavia on a stick. Some people have mentioned Manny Diaz or Tommy Rees or Brian Kelly, and absolutely no to all of those. And then the wild card I have is Jay Harbaugh, because I don't think that would be an ideal hire, but I do think that everybody loved Jay Harbaugh, and he coached several different position groups, and he would be sort of the equivalent of hiring Dabo Swinney, where he's never been a coordinator. I mean, he was a special teams coordinator for a long time, but he's never been an offensive defensive coordinator, but he's just like a guy who can organize things and will dedicate himself wholeheartedly to the job. Now, if I had to guess, I don't think any of my top 4 are going to be the head coach. I don't think DeBoer is going to be available. I think Brom's
Or
probably
NFL
going to
jobs.
stick at Louisville. Yeah, that's what I meant. And I think that nobody's going to Eck is probably too much of a wild card for whoever's in charge to make that decision and go with him. So I'm a little frightened about what's about to happen.
I just, there's other options out there. Like, things can happen, right? Like, one of the jobs that they're talking about mentor for is the Ravens, because John Harbaugh might step down. Like, that could open up, right? There's a lot of things that happen during coaching search. Just to set the stage, though, I think that people are overreacting to the mess because there's no athletic director, or there's a question about the athletic director and all that. I don't think the athletic directors these days are the ones who direct college searches, right? That's a consultant firm. That's the money guy comes in to do the contract guy, unless it's an insane person who just wants the whole story to be about him. And we've seen examples of that and how they work out. Usually these things are handled by people who are more professionals at this specific job. So I don't think that the athletic director piece is a major part of it. And I think that you look at the Michigan job, you have very strong chance to keep Bryce Underwood and have him be part of the conversation. So you're talking about years 2 and 3 of a star who could win you a national championship. You have a massive NIL war chest, possibly one of, if not the top NIL war chest in the country. And you have a opportunity, because of the way the last guy left, to really kind of make the program what you want, and also pick between, depending on who knew what and whatever happens with this next investigation, an opportunity to kind of make your staff, or at least pick and choose from pretty good staff. It's a top line job compared to other times when we've been in this situation where, like, we're trying to find somebody to replace Lloyd Carr and told them, oh, you're not allowed to spend any money on your defensive coordinator. Or we were trying to, we were focused on, Jim Harbaugh, and if he didn't come, we were going to go after a whole bunch of guys who used to work for Urban Meyer. Or we were trying to replace, Rich Rodriguez and find somebody who will, debase himself before Dave Brandon. Like, the coaching searches we've been part of in the past are much worse than this one.
Yeah, I don't know. That could be true. What about, first of all, I'm always compelled by Brian's thoughts on point. A couple of years ago, we thought we should hire the guy from Colorado School of Mines.
Well,
upset. He's back there.
That was,
and he actually convinced me that was
that was mostly joking around.
Might have not been bad. Who knows? But he
was bad at Montana, and he ended up back at Mines, where he's doing well again. So yeah, Bob Stick kind of found his Peter's level.
His level. I'm interested. I don't think Jesse Minter's coming to Michigan. I think he's going to be a head coach in the NFL shortly. Kalen DeBoer feels like possible, but sort of a possible long shot. Eck, I would probably say, yeah, that's also, we probably get Jason Eck, but how he'll do is uncertain. Brom, it feels like a Louisville lifer to me. That's his place. And same for, I don't know, Kenny Dillingham. Is that his name, out at Arizona State?
That is his name. I just can't get over the fact that he looks like he should be in the movie Euro Trip.
So several. I can't speak to Dillingham. I'll just start about the ones I can't speak to.
Yeah,
Dillingham I can't speak to. First, with Kalen DeBoer, there was serious interest when Kalen was at Washington in Michigan. If timelines such as they were didn't allow for that interest to create a path to Michigan, would there have been, how would history have been written if his path to the NFL is clearer earlier in the process? Would Kalen have been the choice as opposed to an internal hire? History will never know. What I'm telling you, unequivocally is there was interest, serious interest from his side of things. Does that mean that he would absolutely be interested now? I can't say that for sure, but I can say I would be extremely surprised if he weren't willing to listen and listen intently to what Michigan had to say. Not just because of his initial interest in Michigan a couple of years ago, but because 3 months ago they were ready to run him out of town. They lose to Florida State, and they're talking about being ready to fire him. If they didn't get selected for the college football playoff, would they be singing that same tune right now in Tuscaloosa? I mean, some people might be put off by the fact that they got handled in the SEC title game. I'm not. I think he is an excellent coach. He is just as good a dude. He has built multiple programs. He has taken 2 to the playoff. Many of the same characteristics present in Dusty May are present in Kalen DeBoer. Familiar with the area, familiar with the culture. Obviously, he coached at Eastern Michigan, has Court on his staff. He knows about Michigan. You would have his attention. I would be shocked if he didn't listen. Jeff Brom is a great name. I would be very surprised knowing his circle. I would be very surprised. I was actually going to talk about this morning, but since you brought him up, I would be very surprised if Jeff Brom didn't listen. Very surprised. Very, very surprised if Jeff Brom didn't listen. So, these options that are being discounted as non-starters or very unlikely options, I would say let's pump the brakes on ruling them, not necessarily out, but ruling them as being too unlikely an option to get our hopes up for. I think the options are more. I think we should be more optimistic than that. Michigan is not Penn State, and I think that will become evident as they get into this process.
I mean, I know Michigan's a better job than Penn State, but is it that much of a better job? It feels like there are 4 Midwest jobs, and they're all close enough that if you're not interested in Penn State, you might not be that interested in Michigan, all right? Like Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Penn State. And it just feels like Penn State's a good enough job.
Yeah, I don't think it's true of Kalen. I don't think it's true of Kalen. Now, that doesn't mean that Michigan can get him, but listen, if they call Kalen, I would be shocked if he's like, nah, sorry.
I think it's more about the Penn State job. I think right now was worse than the Penn State job in general, just because they had the whole recruiting class was cleared out. They're going through their own problem. You have to work for Kraft. Like that's a different job now than it normally would be. They just ran out James Franklin. Like,
I mean, they lucked into what seems like a pretty good hire in Matt Campbell. So,
well, Matt Campbell was always just kind of sitting there as as the floor for any of these hires, right?
Well,
but
it's a pretty good floor, I guess.
No, yeah. But I think the situation that has changed that people don't really realize has changed yet is Alabama's not as good of a job as it was. It's not like you're walking into the Saban machine and just piloting that thing. NIL's changed the business for them. And they're losing a lot of battles in NIL. And Michigan is winning a lot of battles in NIL. And I think a coach is probably looking at that and saying, okay, this is a new math.
I mean, the only thing I'd say about that is that Michigan currently has the number 11 class on 24/7, and Alabama has the number 2 class. So whatever NIL stuff is happening down in Alabama, they seem to be weathering it just fine.
Right. And listen, I don't want to be misunderstood here. I'm not suggesting that Kalen is lobbying for this job. I'm not saying that interest is being professed in the back channel ways like it was when he was at Washington. Not suggesting that at all. What I am suggesting is that with the interest that was present a couple of years ago, with his situation down there at Alabama where they nearly ran him out, and knowing people, I am confident that Michigan is not viewed in the same light as Penn State. I'm confident in that. Now, that doesn't mean that they would be able to get him, but I don't think that you should look at this and say, oh, well, he didn't have interest in Penn State, so he wouldn't have interest in Michigan. I just don't buy that. Don't believe that. You got to kick that tire. His situation down there is, I wouldn't quite go so far as to say it's precarious, but I mean, man, they were literally ready to run him out of town after the first week of the season. And maybe they would have been were it not for that playoff selection. It was probably really that simple in the aftermath of that SEC title game loss. So you aren't a cultural fit down there if you're Kalen DeBoer. You follow the legend, and in a weird sort of irony, this circuitous route to Michigan, if he were to take it, might actually be preferable because you aren't following Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, my point is, we're 10 years ago, or even if I might have, someone leaving Alabama for Michigan would just be unheard of. You would not do it because Alabama was perfectly set up, right? You could get away with things in Alabama that you could not at Michigan. You could pay guys in Alabama more than you could pay guys at Michigan. Alabama was guaranteed to have one of those 4 playoff spots, and Michigan was, having to look up to Ohio State and beat them, and no one thought that was possible. What's changed is the system. And because the system has changed, people at Alabama are expecting him to have the same success that Nick Saban had in a system that does not give him the same advantages that Nick Saban had.
Yeah, that's the one thing that makes me think that it would be possible, is that he stepped into Saban's shoes. And that's, it's just fatal, right? Like at some point he's going to go 9-3 and miss the playoff, and they're going to axe him. Doesn't matter what happened before, because they're used to Nick Saban, are going to have a hair trigger for his employment. Now, Michigan is not going to have that same situation. So that's the one thing that I'm like, well, if he has a feeling that like he was really teetering after that Florida State loss earlier in the year, that's an unreasonable standard to hold a coach to. And maybe he wants to go to a place that will hold coaches to a more reasonable standard, or no standard at all, apparently.
Yeah. And then on Jeff Brom, look, I know he's a Louisville lifer, but Michigan, that's another one that you kick that tire. Mm-hmm. It's a good name to bring up. And
like, he's really the only guy out there right now with a long track record of college success. Like, there's guys like Tony Elliott, who had one good year at Virginia. I like Eck, despite the fact that he's got a thin resume, but it's pretty bleak, right? Yeah. If you look at like hiring a head coach. And then there's Brent Key.
Love him.
Who's also at Georgia Tech.
Love him.
Which is, he's not also, it's also his alma mater. So, but you're kind of hesitant because like how much of Key's success is Haynes King, right? And that's why I'm not into Clark Lee either. It's because you might as well just hire Diego Pavia at that point.
Yeah, I like Brent Key a lot, but I don't know about how the circumstance. I don't know how likely he would be to listen. You would think he would be. He was not in the mix for Penn State, even though Penn State showed interest. I don't know if it would be the same with Michigan. I don't have the same sort of connects there yet to be able to glean that sort of intel. But with Kalen, with Jeff Brom, I think those are tires that you can kick and be confident that they aren't just hanging up the phone on you. That doesn't mean you'll get them, but I think they'll listen. I think they'll listen
too. I mean, how much is connected to Louisville is unclear to me. I mean, it is his alma mater. Feels like a place he's in a good personal situation there. I mean, he ain't going to be fired, or his job isn't going to be at any particular risk. DeBoer is a different situation, as Brian points out. I mean, DeBoer can look at the big picture and say, yeah, this may not be a great cultural fit. And two, as soon as I'm out of the playoffs, I'm gone. And then what's my value may have gone through the floor at that point. So I could see DeBoer for sure. I wouldn't turn my nose up at Dillingham. He's really done a nice job at Arizona State. But my thinking there is, I think he's an ASU grad. I think his entire family lives there. A good personal situation for him, and he's widely respected and valued in that community. So yeah, maybe this is it. DeBoer and Brome and Eck.
I mean, the Eck thing is be like hiring Harbaugh after San Diego. Like,
I don't think that's quite right. Because
maybe a year into Stanford or something.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, like it's not a bad floor for this, and I think he's actually going to be a really good coach, and that could work out, and that's kind of why I'm not worried. Like, if X your floor, then you're okay.
You got to have some vision and cojones to hire Jason Eck, right? Like that's kind of an off the wall pick. I think it's a good pick, but that's kind of going to be a hard sell. Like, he was where and he did what for how long? Yeah. So I feel like, I
mean, your floor is then Jed Fish, then, right?
I guess. Like, I'm sure he'd take the job. He did a good job at Arizona. Like, he's done a solid job at Washington, especially because DeBoer and the NFL rated that roster after they were national runner-up. And Washington's not a reload program; they're a rebuild program. So, yeah, I mean, I guess Fish would be a reasonable option. I don't know. It doesn't feel like his ceiling is particularly high, and I don't know why I think that. Honestly, like, that seems unjustified now that I say it out loud.
I have the same feeling, and I don't know why I think that either. But that's also my instinct. By the way, do you guys think Ward will have a job tomorrow?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, yes. A year from today, no.
A year from today, no.
Well, a job?
Sure. I don't know.
He'll be on the board of some sort of, these guys. Once you get to a certain level, you can, you can only fall so far, and you're still going to be making a lot more than I do. But I don't think he's going to be Michigan's athletic director a year from now. I don't. I think that between the Mel Pearson stuff and now this, and like they're going to, at some point, it's like, how many embarrassments can we take, even if you're doing your job right? These are too many embarrassments for us.
That's a fair point.
Well, we'll certainly see what comes of this whatever they're having today. I can assure you that he won't be one who goes down just saying, I just surrender. I feel like this is, I think there would be a political war waged if they try to shoo him out based on this Chiron Moore thing. We'll see what happens. I think that's already underway. Sounds like I kind of thought that was the case, but definitely feels like that's the case now. So,
Chiron, I'm sorry, not Chiron. Does Ward really have that kind of support? Like, does he have a party in the?
I guess we're about to find out. We got to get out of here though. As we move on, appreciate everyone who joined us here on this edition of the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at thebig1050.com.